I want to dive into this idea of a spectrum of competence for behavior change or skill acquisition. There are so many different theories of behavior change and models for behavior change. Most common and most translatable is probably the trans-theoretical model developed in the 70s for smoking cessation. A lot of people are familiar with this, but that's really like about preparing to make a change. And this spectrum of competence was first introduced to me in the Being True to You transformational coaching program. And I think this is a really beautiful way of saying, in order to get good at something, you have to be willing to be bad at it long enough to get good at it. And I really like this. And so, it says that we start often in this place of unconscious incompetence. So we don't even know that we are doing something poorly, that we want to change a habit, that we want to do something different. We don't even know. It's not even on our minds. And then we move into this conscious incompetence phase. And this conscious incompetence phase is where we realize, like, okay, something needs to change. I am taking part in something that I don't want to do anymore. I want to get better at a skill, that kind of thing. From there, we move into this conscious competence phase where it takes effort, it takes mindful practice to become better at something. And so we're actually doing this skill better. We're performing it how we like. We're not taking part in a harmful behavior anymore, but it requires effort on our part. And then hopefully eventually we move into this unconscious competence phase where it's just a part of our life. We don't even have to think about it anymore. And so this is, I think, really important to realize that we don't just float from one phase to the next and then we're done. This is like a constant ebb and flow between phases, and that looks different for everybody. And I think it's important to talk about, especially this time of year when a lot of us are setting goals and we're talking about goals and we're making resolutions. And it's just such a tired trope by now, at least I'm getting tired of hearing it. But that doesn't make it any less true that, you've always heard like, well, just wait until February and all the resolutioners will be out of the gym. And that's really unfortunate because it is true. But how many times have you heard it, or how many times have you done it yourself? Like, this is the year I'm going to lose those 50 pounds, or this is the year I'm going to, kick that weed habit. This is the year, insert goal here. I think that this idea of shifting between competence levels and shifting between unconscious and conscious is a really kind of a radical idea, because there's so much that goes into the achievement of a behavior change, especially if it's a significant one. And I think understanding the spectrum a little bit better allows us to be more honest with ourselves, whether we are, consciously neglecting ourselves, and it allows us to show ourselves a little bit more grace in the process of all this. I think one of the most applicable situations for this model is addiction recovery, especially compared to a more traditional format like you see in Alcoholics Anonymous, which is very powerful. It has worked for many, many people. I'm just kind of presenting another idea maybe because it wouldn't work for me. And so with AA, there's kind of like this relinquishment of power. This substance has a power over you, and you have to, submit your will to another higher being, or another higher calling. And, that never worked for me. And I definitely had a massive problem with alcohol. You can call it alcoholism, you can call it problem drinking, whatever it wasn't good for me. And I knew that something had to change. And I kind of suspected that for quite some time. But I did spend like the majority of my youth in this unconscious incompetence phase where I was just like abusing alcohol like crazy, especially in the military. Any veteran will tell you it's a very like alcohol driven culture. And I was always leading the way there. I got out of the military and that drinking continued. And then I started to see some problems with my drinking, come up in my own personal life. Somehow I miraculously avoided a DUI. I don't know how, but I did manage to break my jaw. I lost 2 marriages, and many other things that I messed up along the way. And it wasn't really until I started being honest with myself and saying like something needs to change here, that I started taking these steps towards getting better. And I ended up going to Peru, and a big part of that was to try to redefine my relationship with alcohol. And I remember having a conversation with someone that I went with after the fact, and this is after I had gotten sober. And, he says, yeah, I remember you saying you were going to try to redefine your relationship with alcohol. And he remembered thinking to himself, like, oh, it's nothing you try. That's something you either do or you don't do. And I kind of corrected him there, and I was like, no, like actually the operative word is try, because there is just so much shame invoked in a relapse or in a backslide or a mistake when it's tied to a significant behavior like this. And there's a lot of judgment that comes from other people that we put on ourselves. And in order to heal from that, truly, we can recognize that it's there. That's okay. But we got to decouple from that shame and realize, like, why am I actually doing this in the first place? And I think just being aware of this process makes that a whole lot easier. So after I got back from Peru, one of my other friends called it, I became very sober curious, and I started setting rules for myself and saying like, okay, I'm only going to drink, twice a week, or I'm only going to have one drink here or whatever. And it didn't take long. Anytime I would set a rule, it didn't take long for me to start breaking them. And that went on for a good 4 or 5 months. And then it was my birthday, and my wife and I went out, and both were just drinking pretty hard, having a good time. And she kind of had a situation come up for her where she became pretty emotional about some things. And I realized in that moment, maybe not quite in that moment, because in that moment, I was throwing myself a pity party, like, oh, why should I do this on my birthday? Like, why can't we just celebrate my birthday, man? And I also, at the same time, did realize, I do not have the tools right now that I need to make this situation better. And it put a real damper on the night. And that was nobody's fault but my own. And I woke up the next day, and I said, man, I think I need to stop this. I think I got to stop doing this. And so I set a goal for myself. I said, I'm going to do it for a year. And that was the beginning of my sobriety. And so I say all that because I think that everyone's process looks a little different. But we all spend more or less time in some of these phases, and we all experience different jumps and different setbacks in different frequencies and different magnitudes. But wherever you are in your process of, maybe it's an addiction recovery, maybe it's giving up a substance, maybe it's, losing 50 pounds, maybe it's learning to play an instrument. Wherever you are in your process, just keep trying. Keep trying, and just be aware of this macro situation going on where you are going to have ebbs and flows, and you just can't be so hard on yourself that you want to give up. You can be hard enough, right? But not too hard. So yeah, if you'd like to hear more about this kind of thing, I'd love for you to join our Ancestral Campfire community. Via the link below. We have weekly workshops. We talk about all sorts of different things, from all the pillars of Apricus, whether that's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and community. We do talk about plant medicine as well. And we have a live forum that's always getting new ideas updated. And if you'd like that, I'm giving away free lifetime memberships right now. You can just click on the link below and then use the code CampfireLife, all one word, for your free membership. And that won't be around forever, so hopefully you take advantage of it, because I think I'm probably at this conscious incompetence phase of building an online business. And so I'm going to keep on working at it until I become competent, and grow this thing to something pretty special. So with gratitude and curiosity, that's all for now. Cheers.